Welcome back. You remember how the other videos were like movie time? Well, this one, unfortunately for you guys, is me talking. So I want to delve back into the magic. I want to know the difference between an apostate, a maleficar, and blood magic. So let's look at an apostate. And I apologize if I'm butchering these words. I am horrible with that. So let's go. An apostate is a mage who is not part of the circle of magi. There are two types of apostates: hedge mages, who were never part of the circle, and rogue mages, who have fled from the circle. The Templar Order is charged with finding apostates and either capturing them or killing them. Once the term only described mages who willfully left the circle and the path that the chantry had laid out for them. However, the chantry assumes that everyone born in Thedas is a follower of that faith. Anyone who disobeys the laws of the chantry is thus regarded as betraying their faith and labeled apostate. Can you imagine if we lived like that now? What would be the ruling religion? And imagine if you decided not to be it. Holy crap. The chantry's harsh policy means that Dalish elven mages who use a completely different type of magic than the circle are forced to hide their powers from non-Dalish, which has only increased the tension between human and the elves. Although Cerebus are already controlled by the Canary, but the chantry also treats them as apostates. Mages within the Grey Wardens are technically apostates, but are granted reprieve from Templar attention upon recruitment. The harboring of apostates, even blood magic practicing maleficarum, is a point of contention between the two orders, and is only tempered by its relative rarity due to the Warden's conservative recruitment standards. Nonetheless, the Wardens are expected to act appropriately if a mage grows beyond their control, else the Templars consider the mage's immunity forfeit. Okay. Now, that brought up another question. So now the Dalish elves have another type of magic. What the hell? So, okay, Maleficar is one who is depraved. An ancient Tavine is a mage who uses the forbidden arts, including, but not solely restricted to, blood magic. Known Maleficarum are slain on sight by Templars. Apostates are not by definition Maleficarum, but many are. Bucking the authority of the Circle of Magi usually leads a mage into exploring the forbidden, especially if they feel they need such power to stay alive. This is common enough that many Templars will simply assume that any apostate is a Maleficar, and or are close enough to becoming one that it makes no difference. Now, I can see that, but that's kind of messed up. Let's see. Apostates who practice magical arts aren't well known among circles, such as Morgan shapeshifting, are sometimes referred to as Maleficarum. This distinction is not exact and is usually born from the common ignorance and prejudice to associate all unique forms of magic with blood magic. So, yeah, I guess we're just not going to know the answer to all these different types of magic. So let's look at blood magic. Blood magic, first and foremost, is the practice of using blood life itself as a potent fuel for casting spells. Okay, so Morgan is not a blood mage. Okay, got that. This life may be supplied by either the mage or the sacrifices, whether willing or unwilling. As such, the use of blood magic often allows a mage to cast spells that would otherwise be beyond the abilities of any mage or require the use of lyrium. The magisters of the ancient imperium were known to keep numerous slaves on hand as blood sacrifices for particularly, oh my god, hard castings, and a practice that is perpetrated by some blood mages in the present day. Now that's messed up. Originally, this is not technically a school of magic, but simply a means of augmenting spells from any school. So maybe that's what the Dallas elves do. They don't have a school of magic, but they can manipulate the spells between the schools of magic, I guess. In time, however, magisters discovered certain spells that could be performed only by using the power of blood, such as blood wound hemorrhage. And while lyrium may be used to send the individual waking minds of mages into the fade, blood magic can be used to find the sleeping minds of others. Therein lies the heart of one of the blood magic's most potent and dangerous abilities, to influence and even take control of the action of other beings. The Litany of Adralla is the only guaranteed counter to this mind control, and it can only be used as a preventative measure, not to sever control after it is established. Isn't that the litany in my last playthrough that I was supposed to play to, or you're supposed to use to save the mages, and I didn't, and they all died? I think so. Okay. Blood magic can also be used to summon demons into the world, manifesting physically or by possessing a host body, living or dead. Demonic possession of the living produces abominations, while possession of a corpse results in one of the living dead. Okay, let me just re-say this. Demonic possession of the living produces abominations. Okay, so, putting that, I'm sorry, I'm thinking out loud here. Remember when we were in the circle and I did not use the litany and those abominations, those brown things, kept appearing? Okay, those were abominations. And Connor would be an abomination because he was taken over while he was living. Okay. While possession of a corpse results in one of the living dead, a creatures whose strength and abilities depend on the power and type of host and demon involved. It is unclear whether or not dwarves or other magic-resistant beings can become possessed. Dwarves are magic-resistant beings? That's going to be fun looking in the lore when I get over there. Okay, often, however, the demons will possess, kill, or completely ignore a bludge mage who summoned them. Okay. The most powerful magisters who reigned at the height of the ancient imperium were even able to use blood magic to physically cross the veil into the fade, a feat which required the ritual sacrifice of countless slaves and over 2/3 of the lyrium in the entire empire, and which has never been accomplished since. The true cost, however, came when the magisters failed to conquer the Golden City and instead returned to Thedas as the first darkspawn, unleashing the blight and the taint upon all of Thedas. Ancient lore and present-day events hint that blood magic holds the key to incredible powers yet undreamed of, or long thought lost. Such power generally requires a terrible sacrifice. However, a debt paid in blood at the cost of the lives of others and one's own humanity. As such, while blood magic itself is merely a tool, it is by far the most dangerous means to any end in the realm of Thedas. So, that puts a new light on with Connor using blood magic as a way to save Connor. I don't think, after reading that, that's a valid choice. So, going to the circle is going to be my option. Yay! Um, yeah, that's going to be my option. Hmm. I mean, that it's amazing to me the depth of the story. I mean, thinking of all of these minute details and getting them to fit. Huh. It makes me really want to look at some of the fan fiction to see how they've taken this foundation and moved it and created it into their own story. Since we're talking about magic and mages, what's well, let's look at mana. Mana is that which defines a mage. It is potential that dwells within a person but does not always manifest itself. All men are connected to the Fade. We go there to dream, but only those with this potential may draw upon its power. Mana is, then, a measurement of one's ability to draw power from the Fade, and it is this power that is expended into magic. As in all other things, it has limits. Just as a man has the strength to lift only so much weight and no more, a mage cannot work more magic at one time than his mana allows. Okay, if he wishes to work magic that would be beyond his strength, a mage would bolster his mana with lyrium. Without lyrium, it is possible for the reckless to expend their own life force into in the working of magic, and occasionally ambitious apprentices injure or even kill themselves by overexertion. Now, lyrium, on the other hand, is a valuable but dangerous mineral. Physical contact with the raw ore will cause serious injury and psychological problems for humans or elves and will kill mages outright. Only the dwarves are able to process the ore into a less dangerous and more useful form. So that means, okay, now I see why they're magic resistant. Generations of proximity to lyrium ore veins have made dwarves naturally resistant, though not completely immune to its effects. Surface dwarves lose this resistance over time. In its process form, lyrium may be handled by anyone, but long-term exposure or a single mistake while working with it can lead to serious side effects, such as emotional instability or complete psychosis. Processed lyrium is used by dwarves and the tranquil to enchant items. The Circle of Magi also uses it to mentally travel into the Fade in an aware state. Lyrium is used by the Chantry to control the Templars. Templars are given lyrium to develop their talents, although Alistair seems to doubt whether it actually has any real effect. And this also leaves them addicted and thus within the control of the Chantry, which controls the lyrium trade. Under the jurisdiction of the Treventer mage, created strange contraptions known as lyrium wells, capable of shifting objects and people through different levels of the Fade and creating runic golems. However, this was used against them when one of their experiments created a monstrosity capable of manipulating the wells. After realizing what their creation was capable of, the Smiths were forced to steal the Thag to make sure that it wouldn't be able to escape. In the Fade, the Wardens encounter a resource called raw lyrium that can replenish all health, stamina, and mana. This also is present in the Anvil of the Void, though the effect is lesser and has no effect on dwarf characters. That's exactly what I thought of when they said that exposure to raw lyrium is, toxic. How were you able to click on those mana things? So, okay, speaking of the Fade, let's talk about that. The Fade, known by the Daedalus as the Beyond, is a metaphysical realm that is part of Thedas, yet separated by the veil. The Fade is split up into fiefs belonging to the spirits that live there, and they change the landscape of the Fade to emulate what they see in the minds of mortal dreamers. Every living being, whether the exception of dwarves, with the exception of dwarves, enters the Fade mentally when they dream, and mages tap into it when they cast spells. Most people do not remember their time in the Fade, but mages are forced to recall. Killing a mortal dreaming in the Fade is a shock to their living bodies, but not lethal. The person merely wakes up. Mortals have entered the Fade physically only once. If we are to believe the chantry caused by the first blight, mages of the Circle frequently visit the Fade with the aid of lyrium, and during their harrowing, a mage is projected into the Fade to resist the attack of a demon. Mortals have entered the Fade physically only once. Okay, physically. Okay, because mortals dream, but that's not physical. Okay, got it. Unlike other living beings, dwarves are not connected to the Fade and cannot naturally enter it when they dream. Whether this grants them their natural resistance to magic or is a result of it is unclear, but under certain conditions, a dwarf can be forced into the Fade in a dream state, which makes me wonder, is it possible for a dwarf to be a mage? I don't think so. They can be a warrior, they can be a rogue, but I don't think they can be a mage. It is unknown what relationship the Canary culture has with the Fade, although their mages would certainly have the same affinity and vulnerability to it as their elven and human counterparts. The Fade and its inhabitants generally copy locations, objects, people, and concepts of the real world, though in a cruel and often confusing way. In addition, these copies are nowhere near consistent and can alter from moment to moment. Drinking water here. There is but one constant feature in the Fade, the Black City, which can always be seen on the horizon. And this is what Wynne talked about when we were at Ostagar. According to the Chantry, it was once the Golden City until the Treventer Magisters set foot within it. With the possible exception of this, no one has found a way to reach it, though if one looks to the sky, one can see it forever in the distance. Now, it seems like the rules in the real world and the rules in the Fade are different. Enemies killed in the Fade do not have loot, which sucks. That's why I hate it. One of the reasons why I hate it. Enemies may drop ethereal weapons to be used in the Fade. Some enemies may drop corpse galls instead. Items from the player's inventory destroyed while in the Fade will be gone forever, or for that matter, potions used. You cannot bring goods back from the Fade. Even if you learn shapeshifting, you cannot use it in the normal world, which, if you remember in the mage storyline, I turned into something or other, a bear or something like that, but I couldn't take that into the real world. Mages cannot use the spell Animate Dead, and Reavers cannot use the talent Devar to recover health while in the Fade, which sucks. So, that puts a different light on it. It made me realize something. In like RPGs, you usually have mana potions, whereas in truth, it's really not a mana potion that you're using. You're using something like lyrium, because mana is what defines the mage, and lyrium is what boosts the mana power. See, I never saw it like that. Like in World of Warcraft, you have mana potions. So although I realized that mana is what defined the mage, I just thought that the strength of your power was the mana. Man, I swear this game gets... Do any of you end up thinking about, the logistics of the game like this? Because remember, without lyrium, it is possible for the Reckless to expend their own life force. and, really jack themselves up. Mana, mages need mana. No, mages have mana and they need lyrium or blood or some other funky thing. And see, that's another thing. If the Templars are in control of the lyrium trade, well, why would the dwarves give that up, for one? But two, if they're in control of it, how is it that I can make lyrium potions? How the hell am I able to take herbs and whip them into lyrium? Good question, huh? See, okay, yeah, I'm overthinking, but I do wonder how I'm able to do that, because I shouldn't be able to, right? I'm gonna cut here, and I will see you guys in the next one.